You know that feeling when you check your email even though you shouldn't? Like your mind is saying don't do it, but your fingers have already entered the password. I was standing on our hotel balcony in Santorini. The sky this impossible shade of blue that doesn't even look real in pictures. Nathan was asleep inside, sprawled across our bed with the white sheets twisted around him. 2 days into our honeymoon. Just 2. I don't know why I opened my work email. Habit, maybe addiction. The subject line read, Personnel Update, Position Elimination. Not even my name, just Personnel Update, like I was some kind of software patch. I remember how the phone suddenly felt heavy, how my stomach dropped before I even tapped it open, how the bright Greek sun seemed to fade as I read. Dear Elena, effective immediately. Your position at Blackwood Partners has been eliminated due to departmental restructuring. Your final paycheck, including 2-week severance, will be deposited on the regular pay schedule. Please coordinate with IT about returning company property once you're back. Regards, Josephine Blackwood, Chief Executive Officer. That was it. 6 years at the company, 6 years of 60-hour weeks, canceled plans, missed birthdays, 6 years spent building their client list into something worth millions, and it ended with a 58-word email. I read it 4 times, hoping the sentences would magically change. They didn't. I slipped into the bathroom so Nathan wouldn't hear me break down, sat on the cold tile floor with my back against the door, and cried into a hotel towel. The kind of crying where you can't breathe right, where your whole body shakes, where awful animal sounds come out of you without warning. I sobbed until my face was swollen and my vision blurred. I was 34, newly married, unemployed in another country. Hi, I'm Elena Christo. Well, Elena Christo Reeves now. Half Greek, total workaholic, apparently entirely disposable. Until 2 weeks ago, I was the senior client relations director at Blackwood Partners, a Boston wealth management firm for high net worth clients, which basically means rich people who want someone else to handle their money. Before I go on, hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments if anything like this has ever happened to you, because in those first hours I felt unbelievably alone, like I was the only person ever betrayed like this. So there I was, sitting on the bathroom floor of a stupidly expensive hotel I'd saved 3 years for, trying to figure out how to tell my husband of exactly 10 days that I'd lost my job, the job paying half our mortgage, the job I bragged about at our wedding, the job where no one even had the courtesy to call me. I splashed cold water on my face and tried to pull myself together. Nathan knocked. Lena, you okay? I opened the door and his face fell. He knew instantly. What happened? Is it your mom? I handed him my phone and watched his expression shift from worry to confusion to fury. What the actual— They can't do this. Can they seriously do this while you're on your honeymoon? I nodded. Apparently they can. But why? Your last review was amazing. You just secured the Petropolis account last month. The Petropolis account, a $50 million portfolio. I'd spent 18 months on it. Dinners, presentations, weekend calls. Mr. Petropoulos, a fellow Greek-American, wanted someone who understood family values to manage his empire. Josephine practically cried when I landed that deal. I don't know why, I said. Though that wasn't entirely true. I had suspicions. Nathan pulled me into his arms, his heart pounding. He was angry in a way I couldn't be yet. I was still in shock. We're going to figure this out, he murmured into my hair. But first, we're shutting off your phone and eating breakfast. They don't get to destroy our honeymoon. So I did what my husband said. I powered off my phone. We ate Greek yogurt with honey and fresh figs on our balcony. We talked about anything except work, and for almost 3 hours I actually forgot. But at lunch, sitting at this tiny taverna by the water, something inside me snapped. While Nathan was in the bathroom, I turned my phone back on. It detonated. Notifications flooded in endlessly. Texts, calls, voicemails, emails, all from the hours right after the termination message. The first text was from Arjun, my assistant. "What is going on? Clients are panicking. Josephine looks like she's about to collapse. Call me." The next was from Daniela in legal. "Elena, the Blackwood sisters are in absolute chaos. Marcella just yelled at Josephine in front of the entire floor. I've never witnessed anything like it." Then there was a message from Rex, our head of security. "They told me to revoke your access, but I'm experiencing technical issues. You've got 48 hours before I have to do it." But the text that made me gasp came from Thomas, our client services coordinator. 47 of our biggest clients are threatening to walk unless we bring you back. They said they only signed because of your personal involvement. Josephine is losing it. The board called an emergency meeting. What do you want us to do? 47 clients. That's over 80% of our high-value portfolio. Billions of dollars ready to vanish. Because of me. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely swipe through the rest of the messages. Voicemails from clients themselves. People like Jonathan Leowitz, who ran a hedge fund and trusted us with his entire fortune. Diana Chen, the tech CEO who'd followed me from my last firm. The Rosenberg family, with me since the beginning. All saying versions of the same thing. If Elena's out, we're out. Nathan came back and saw me staring at my phone, tears streaming silently down my cheeks. "What now?" he asked, startled. I lifted my gaze, and something inside me shifted. The shock was fading. The hurt was still there, raw and jagged, the kind that takes time to mend. But now there was something new, a slow-growing ember that felt dangerously close to power. I said carefully, "I just realized how badly Josephine misjudged everything. Let me rewind. You need to understand Blackwood Partners to understand what unfolded. The firm was created by three sisters, Josephine, Marcella, and Regina Blackwood, who inherited their father's investment company. Josephine, the eldest, was CEO. She had the financial brilliance and the ruthless edge. Marcella, the middle sister, was the people expert, the one who made clients feel valued. Regina, the youngest, managed operations and kept everything moving. Marcella hired me 6 years ago. She discovered me at a competitor where I'd hit a wall. Too young, too female, too ethnic to climb past a certain level. Marcella noticed something in me. She mentored me. Within a year, I was handling their top-tier clients. Within 3, I was bringing in more new business than anyone else. The truth is, wealth management isn't just about numbers. It's about trust. These clients aren't simply giving you money. They're giving you their safety, their children's futures, their entire legacy. They need to believe you care as deeply as they do. And I did. I remembered their kids' names, their anniversaries, their food allergies. I checked on them when they were ill. I wrote handwritten notes. I replied to midnight texts. Not because any handbook said to, but because I genuinely cared. The issue? About a year ago, Marcella got sick. Stage 3 breast cancer. She stepped back from daily operations to focus on treatment. And something in Josephine shifted. She'd always been the colder sister, the numbers-driven one. But without Marcella softening her edges, Josephine's vision narrowed entirely to the bottom line. Staff wellness programs slashed. The annual client appreciation event reduced to a bland virtual webinar. The thoughtful touches Marcella believed were our signature suddenly labeled inefficient. I pushed back quietly at first, then more firmly as I watched client satisfaction scores slip. I bypassed Josephine entirely and went to Regina, who still had enough influence to protect some of what made us stand out. Then came the breaking point. 3 weeks before my wedding, Josephine called me into her office. "Elena, we need to discuss your client load. I'm worried it's becoming unwieldy." I remember feeling thrown off. My clients were happy. Our retention rate was almost perfect. "I'm managing it fine," I said. "The client satisfaction surveys." "This isn't about satisfaction," she interrupted. "It's about efficiency. You're spending too much time on personalized attention. We need to standardize our model. Then she dropped the bomb. I'm transferring the Petropolis account to Bradley. Bradley Winters, Harvard MBA, Josephine's latest prodigy, the type who calls older women sweetheart and cuts you off to re-explain your own ideas. Mr. Petropoulos specifically asked for me, I protested. He'll leave if you move him. Josephine's smile was tight. We'll handle the transition. I've already talked it through with Bradley. Already discussed it without me. The account I brought in, the client who trusted only me. I wish I could say I stayed composed. I didn't. This is a mistake, I said, my voice edging up. Bradley doesn't have the relationship skills for clients like these. They don't want a template strategy. They want someone who treats them like individuals. That's outdated, Josephine replied. Modern wealth management is about systems, not personalities. We can't have clients overly attached to single advisors. It creates risk. I stared at her. Those relationships are the reason clients choose us over Goldman or Morgan Stanley. It's our edge. That was Marcella's philosophy, she said flatly. And while my sister has strengths, business strategy isn't one of them. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about efficiency at all. It was a power grab. With Marcella sidelined, Josephine was tearing down her sister's vision and installing her own. And I was expendable. I left that meeting anything but professional. I had a wedding coming, a honeymoon booked. I decided to let it sit until after I returned. We could have a real conversation when I wasn't drowning in seating charts and floral arrangements. I didn't realize Josephine had already made her call. The rest of that day in Santorini is hazy. I remember Nathan canceling our sunset cruise. I remember sitting on the balcony making calls, the gorgeous view completely wasted on me. I phoned Arjun first. Elena, it's absolute chaos, he whispered, like he was hiding in a closet. Josephine announced your exit in yesterday's morning meeting, as if it were a routine staffing note. By noon, clients knew. The Rosenbergs called first, then the Chens, then it was like falling dominoes. What exactly are they saying? I asked. That they'll pull their accounts if you're not reinstated, he said. Mr. Liowitz told Josephine, and I quote, I don't hand my fortune to algorithms and spreadsheets. I trust Elena. A wave of gratitude hit me so hard it nearly made me cry again. These people, many I'd never even met face to face thanks to COVID, were fighting for me. Has Josephine contacted you? Arjun asked. No, I said, just the termination email. He made a disgusted noise. Regina's livid. She says Josephine made this call on her own without board approval. There's talk of an emergency vote, and Marcella, she showed up today. First time in months. She looked terrible, still in chemo, but she was ready for battle. I've never heard her raise her voice before. I hung up and immediately checked my email again. Still nothing from Josephine. Nothing from HR. It felt like they'd tossed a grenade and vanished. Next, I called Rex to figure out what access I still had. Then Daniela in legal to see where I stood contractually. Then I started returning client calls. Every conversation followed the same script: shock, anger, and disbelief on their behalf. Concern rippled through them about what this meant for their accounts. And always, without fail, the same question followed. So what are you planning to do now? By the time dinner rolled around, my phone lit up with a text from an unfamiliar number. Elena, this is Regina Blackwood. We need to speak immediately. Please call me on this private line. I handed Nathan the phone. He had stayed next to me for hours, bringing me water, jotting things down, keeping me grounded. Are you going to call her? He asked gently. I stared at the message for a long moment. The old version of me, the eager to please Elena, the model employee who never challenged anything, would have dialed back instantly. She would have felt pathetically thankful just to be acknowledged. But that Elena had died on a bathroom floor in Santorini. Not yet, I murmured, placing the phone aside. First, I need to figure out what I actually want. Nathan's eyes widened, and then a small, proud smile spread across his face, lifting something inside me for the first time all day. "And what do you want?" he asked. I gazed out at the darkening Aegean, at the lights flickering on across the caldera, at the first stars pushing through the sky. "I want them to understand exactly what they threw away," I said. "It's strange how clarity comes, never a dramatic thunderbolt, but soft, steady waves that build until the direction becomes undeniable." Nathan and I stayed awake until 3 a.m. that night, on the balcony, with a bottle of wine, 2 legal pads. We made lists, ran numbers, imagined outcomes. Sometime around 1 a.m., he looked up at me and said, "You know, you don't have to go back there, right?" I blinked. "What are you talking about?" "I mean your clients. They're loyal to you, not the Blackwood brand. You've basically been operating your own business inside theirs for years." I had never viewed it from that angle. I'd been so focused on being the perfect employee that I overlooked the power I'd built. The security guard blinked in surprise. "Ms. Cretus, Mrs. Christos. Reeves now, right? We didn't expect—" "I have a meeting," I said, cutting him off politely, sliding my now useless badge across the counter. "Please let them know I'm here." The executive conference room sat on the top floor, framed by floor-to-ceiling windows meant to impress clients. All 3 Blackwood sisters were already waiting, along with Harold Chen from the board and a woman I didn't recognize, a sharp-featured 50-something with a strict bob and a legal pad. Josephine rose first, extending her hand as if greeting a stranger. "Elena, thank you for coming." I shook her hand silently and took the seat across from her. Regina looked uneasy. Marcella looked drained, but resolute. "I want to start by acknowledging that the execution of your position's elimination was unfortunate," Josephine began, reading stiffly from prepared remarks. "Unfortunate," I echoed, completely flat. "Yes, the timing was regrettable and the method of communication was impersonal. For that, I apologize." The woman with the legal pad gave a small approving nod. "Ah, PR, of course." "However," Josephine continued, "I stand by the underlying business decision. We needed to restructure client services for scale and efficiency." I laced my fingers together on the table. "And how is that restructuring going, Josephine?" Regina shifted, visibly uncomfortable. Marcella stared hard at her sister. "There have been difficulties," Josephine conceded, "which is why we've brought you here. The board has approved the creation of a new role, Executive Director of Client Relations. You'd report directly to the board, not to me. Your base compensation would rise by 15%, plus an expanded equity package." I looked at each face around the table. "And you think that fixes the issue?" "We believe it recognizes what you bring to the firm," Regina said, "and sets up a structure where something like this, misunderstanding, can't happen again." Misunderstanding. What a polished little word for what was essentially betrayal. "Tell me something," I said, turning to Josephine. "Did you honestly believe the clients wouldn't care? That Bradley could just step into my shoes and they'd quietly accept it?" She went rigid. "We misjudged the level of emotional investment. That's a valid critique." "It isn't about emotional investment," I said, leaning in. "It's about trust. These people hand over their security, their kids' futures, their retirements. That's deeply personal. They don't place their faith in Blackwood Partners. They place it in the individuals they rely on at Blackwood Partners." Marcella nodded. "Exactly what I've argued for 2 decades. Then Harold Chen spoke for the first time. "Will you accept the offer?" I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. "No," I said plainly. "I won't." Josephine's expression tightened. "Elena, be practical. You're not going to secure a better package anywhere else." "I'm done being someone else's asset," I replied, sliding the documents across the table. "This is my counteroffer." They all stared at the title, Christos Partners, LLC. "You're launching your own firm?" Regina asked, eyes widening. It already exists, I said. Filed last week. I've secured funding backed by commitments from clients representing more than $2 billion in assets. Silence crashed over the room. The PR woman scribbled furiously. You'll cripple Blackwood, Josephine said, her voice low and cold. Not necessarily, I said. That's why I'm here. I'm offering a controlled transition, an official spin-off with Blackwood retaining a minority share. My clients move with me, but your firm keeps part of the value and avoids a full-scale collapse. Harold was studying my proposal more intensely now. A strategic partnership, he murmured. Exactly. Blackwood collects revenue without the cost of maintaining my team, and I gain independence and authority over my client base. I held Josephine's gaze. Everyone gets what they actually want. This is ridiculous, Josephine snapped. We'll fight this legally. Those client relationships were formed while you worked here. Your non-competes, which disappeared from my contract during my last renewal, I said smoothly. I confirmed with legal before I left, and since you terminated me without cause, any remaining clauses are unenforceable. Marcella made a noise somewhere between a laugh and a cough. She has you, Joe. You knew about this? Josephine whirled toward her sister. No, Marcella said, but I'm not shocked. Elena has always been sharper than you ever acknowledged. She turned to me. What would this partnership actually look like? For the next hour, we dug into logistics. Harold and Regina posed sharp questions. The PR woman stopped writing and simply watched, stunned. Josephine barely spoke, jaw tight and unyielding. By the time we wrapped up, nothing was finalized, but the shape of the deal was unmistakable. I would launch Christos Partners with my core clients. Blackwood would retain a 20% share, softening the blow. And most critically, I would have full control over client relationships and growth strategy. We'll need the entire board to review this, Harold said at last. I stood and gathered my materials. You have 48 hours. After that, I notify my clients. As I turned to leave, Josephine finally spoke again. You planned this from the start, didn't you? Built up your client base knowing you'd eventually take them. I met her stare, unwavering. No, Josephine. I built those relationships because that's what competent advisors do. I cared about this firm. I fought for it. I built it. I recruited for it. I canceled plans, missed holidays, sacrificed for it. I slid my folder back into my bag. You taught me something vital. Never confuse loyalty to a company with loyalty to your own worth. I walked out of that conference room with my heart racing, but my steps steady. In the elevator, I finally exhaled, leaning against the wall as the doors closed. My phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. How did it go? I smiled and typed back. I just became a CEO. The next 48 hours were a whirlwind. More meetings, lawyers, calls with potential staff, starting with Arjun, who accepted immediately. The board approved my proposal with one change. They wanted 30% ownership. I countered at 22, and we settled at 25. 1 week after returning from my honeymoon, I signed papers formalizing the partnership between Blackwood Partners and the newly formed Christos Partners. 3 weeks later, we moved into our own offices, smaller, but with the same harbor view. The transition wasn't seamless. Bradley tried to sway some clients to stay. A few smaller ones did, but the core, Lowitz's, Chen's, Rosenberg's, Petropolis's, followed me. In the end, I took 52 clients, nearly 65% of Blackwood's high net worth portfolio. Josephine resigned 2 months later, pursuing other opportunities. Regina became CEO, and Marcella returned to the board as her health improved. 18 months on, Christos Partners is thriving. We've even recruited key employees from Blackwood, including Daniela and Rex. I work just as hard, but now every late-night email feels different. It's mine. Nathan and I bought a house outside the city. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I think back to that moment in Santorini, crying on the bathroom floor, feeling like my world had ended, wondering how close I came to begging for my job back. Last week, Marcella invited me to lunch. Her cancer is in remission, hair growing back, silver at the temples. You know, she said over wine, when Josephine sent that email, I nearly disowned her. But look at us now. She gestured between us, two successful businesswomen. I almost want to thank her, I laughed. I wouldn't go that far, she said. Fair enough. But look at what you've built, Elena. Would you have done it if you hadn't been pushed? I considered honestly. Probably not. Sometimes the worst moments crack us open in ways we need. Not that I'm defending her, she added. What she did was cruel and stupid and the best thing that ever happened to me. We clinked glasses. So if you're watching this in your own bathroom floor moment, when it feels like everything is collapsing, know this: you're stronger than you think. That leap you're terrified to take, sometimes the universe pushes you when you won't jump yourself. When Josephine fired me, she thought she was cutting a cost center. What she really did was create her fiercest competitor. The best revenge isn't plotted schemes or causing pain. It's taking the blow and transforming it into power. It's becoming fully yourself. That email was meant to end my career. Instead, it made me begin. Feel the anger, cry, experience it all. But then rise, wash your face, and start building. Because sometimes getting fired isn't the end of your story. It's the first page.